Hello neighbors, I'm happy to have you listening to this very important video update for my political campaign. I'm Jesse Bryant and I'm running as a Republican for the 35th Senate District here in Kansas. For those of you who already know me, I just want to say that I felt like I had to make this video even though I really think it should never have been necessary. But apparently there are some people out there who are following a totally flawed thought process and a totally decrepit philosophy on politics, society, and life in general. So I decided that I have to make this video to explain some very crucial points about the right to life and the protection of the individual. You'll notice that I usually don't call myself pro-life, but rather I prefer to say that I believe in the value of life, or the right to life, of every individual. You see, when you say that you are pro-life, it tends to suggest that there is room for debate, and there isn't really. And in this video I plan to explain exactly why there is no debate. Bear with me for a few minutes, friends, and I promise I won't waste your time with this episode. So, first we have to discuss the Commonwealth and the social contract. These are two ancient concepts in human culture, and I like to talk about them a lot because they are supremely relevant to everything in society and politics. The Commonwealth of the people is quite simple. It calls us to determine what all of the people in a society have in common, what binds them all together as a society in the first place. Culture, language, values, those are all important, yes. In America, we had once upon a time developed a culture of freedom and respect for the individual. This ensured religious freedom, freedom of speech, the right to own property and freely assemble, if done legally and non-violently, and the right to self-defense. These are just a few examples of ideals which are enshrined in our Bill of Rights. Now, this Bill of Rights is also referred to as the natural rights, or unalienable rights. In other words, these things are innately possessed by every individual, and they cannot be taken away except by proper due process of law. This Bill of Rights constitutes the social contract of America. But that is not all that it takes to form a social contract. The social contract is more than ink or paper. It is unspoken and unwritten, and it doesn't ever need to be established in writing because it's already within all of us. It's called the Golden Rule. Every person who is born into a human society is brought into this social contract, and they will remain within the contract until they leave the society or until the terms of the contract are violated. This social contract is the Golden Rule. It requires all of us to respect each other's life and property in order for us to coexist peacefully together in a society. This is absolutely necessary to every civilization. It is the harmonizing force in society. So, what does all of this have to do with the right to life versus abortion? Well, I know that many of us who believe in the right to life also believe in our Creator, and we know that life is a miracle, and it is a sacred gift given to us that must be protected and honored. But nowadays there are many people who are less than pious and do not necessarily share this understanding. And they have a right to believe as they wish, but we still have to live with them. Well, in order for the social contract to remain valid, we all have to respect each other's right to life, at least, and our right to property. When an individual or a group of individuals decides to break the contract, then they endanger the rest of society and they are no longer protected by the contract. Basically, they're turning order into chaos. This all applies to the unborn child as well. Abortion represents a lack of compassion and a lack of care. It essentially is denying the right to life of an inconvenient individual. There is no question, scientifically or otherwise, that a life exists and that life is human. So there is a human life that has been disrespected and discarded with every abortion. Everyone understands this, whether they will admit to it or not, and this has brought disastrous harm to the culture of our society and to our psychological well-being as a nation. In the Roe versus Wade case, Judge Blackmun was quoted for saying that the right to life did not apply to the unborn because they were not recognized as a person by the law and were not recognized as a legal entity. Well, that right there is a monstrous conclusion to draw just by itself, for multiple reasons. Basically, he's suggested that an individual is not human and is not a person unless the government has recognized them or given them a number and an ID card. That's probably the most evil concept I've ever heard of in politics. And yet, this is the justification for killing unborn children, and society has accepted it, or at least the government has accepted it and forced society to go along with it. Not only is it pure evil, but is absolutely false as well. It's well established in American law, and in fact, it has been established Judeo-Christian law for thousands of years, that the unborn child is a life and has rights, and any harm done to the unborn or the mother is to be punished severely. In Leviticus, it says, "Take an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." So clearly, even ancient societies knew that there was a life to be protected here. Furthermore, in modern times, when someone does harm to a pregnant woman or her unborn child, they are charged with a crime. Even if a doctor unintentionally does harm to an unborn child without specifically harming the mother, the doctor can still be charged with a crime, and that crime is usually manslaughter or murder. It is absolutely undeniable that a life is there and a legal entity is there. So then, how in any logical universe can abortion exist legally in our society? Well, the answer is that it is totally illogical and hypocritical, and yet it persists. I'll tell you, folks, nothing is more damaging to society than hypocrisy or favoritism. When governments or courts enforce a policy of hypocrisy and injustice, the people will be demoralized, and there will be revolts. Well, the people in America have already been demoralized in a large part because of this policy of legal abortion, and a manufactured culture that promotes it, with government sanction if not encouragement. Planned Parenthood is a government institution from its origin. So, there's no way to say that the unborn child is not a life and a legal entity. It absolutely is, and this is established fact. So then, where does the justification for abortion come from? Well, if you believe in the right to life, then you know that the mother has a right to protect her own life. So, if it is endangered by her pregnancy, then she has a right to save herself by aborting the child. But this is only a small percentage of the number of abortions in America today. Most abortions are performed because the mother simply doesn't want the child.